Here's a little something for Halloween. It's about getting buried alive. I wrote a story a while back. It was about how to run an art center. It pissed a few people off. So what the hell? This is a story about how to bury an art center. I hope it pisses you off. It should. Here's a little backstory. I'm Mendocino's oldest living native-born artist. I took my first art class at age 10 at the Mendocino Art Center. This is me in '63. Here's a newspaper clipping about that. My art teacher was a big shot named Charles Marchant Stevenson. There's one correction here about the word tyro. It means beginner. I was no beginner in 1963. I'd been creating art for 5 years by then, so they weren't my first efforts. Everything else lines up. It looked like Stevenson was doing all right, but looks can be deceiving. This is Mom and Dad. They raised me as an artist, just like Dad. Here's a newspaper clipping from 1991. It's about an exhibit he created for a local museum. It's the longest running exhibit in Mendocino history. I helped just a little. I've made a living as an artist for 20 years in graphics, product development, and game design. I've won national recognition and supported a family as an artist. My work is distinguished. I'm the only living Mendocino artist whose work has gone up in value over time. At auction, my work has sold more than 600 times over a 7-year period. That's a record for Mendocino artists, dead or alive. Here's a chart on that. The average going rate for my work is $31. The original price was $20 30 years ago. Here's a chart of my art teacher's work, Charles Marchant Stevenson, at auction. It doesn't sell at all. For a big shot art teacher, that's incompetent. Not all of my art teachers were incompetent. When I left Mendocino for college, I wound up in Fresno with an art teacher named Bill Minshew. He passed away in 2008. Minshew inspired my career in game design. According to Minshew, it was art. This is Bill Minshew's auction history at an average of $2,250. That's competent. Putting up with incompetence is one thing. Cherishing it is something else. That's fucking crazy. Art center founders should be cherished, with one possible exception: incompetence. First, we'll look at Anderson Ranch Art Center in Snowmass, Colorado. Their founder was a ceramic artist named Paul Soldner. There's a measuring stick for competence at liveauctioneers.com. You can find measurements for all kinds of artists there, including ceramic artists. These are the auction prices for Paul Soldner between 2001 and today. Over 130 pieces were auctioned off at an average price of $1,650. Now let's look at the Mendocino Art Center. Their founder was a painter and printmaker named Bill Zaka. Bill Zaka's work can be found at Live Auctioneers too. 7 pieces of his sold there over the same time frame. The average price was $44. Bill Zaka was a friend of mine. I was a pallbearer at his funeral in 1998. Took my first art class in 1963 at his art center. Bill Zocca was a nice guy, so was his artwork, but it wasn't worth cherishing, not by a long shot. His art center is run by another painter today. Her name is Deborah Lennox. She's a nice lady. Her paintings are nice too. Deborah's been painting for years, but her work can't be found at live auctioneers or even on eBay. It can be found on her website, but that's about it. There's a problem with cherishing incompetence. Untended, it tends to grow, like weeds in a garden. That's what happened at the Mendocino Art Center. From Bill Zocca in 1959 to Deborah Lennox today. There's also a financial problem with that for the Mendocino Art Center. It burns money. Here's the Mendocino Art Center's latest annual report, showing how much they made from artwork like that. It turns out they didn't make anything and lost money instead. Here's how they lost it. They got a big donation in 2020, over $700,000. It wasn't in cash. That donation was all artwork. How can you lose money on an art collection like that unless it's incompetent? At least some of it? If so, what about the rest of it? Or how can you tell the difference? Here's the Mendocino Art Center's latest bank balance. Their savings account is empty. How does that happen with competence? And here's their latest mortgage balance. It's growing. How does that happen with competence? Here's another way to bury an art center: by overcharging customers for artwork. Artwork is sold by the Mendocino Art Center at artworkarchive.com. Bill Zocca's artwork is for sale there for an average price of $553. That's 10 times higher than the average auction price of $44. Isn't that overcharging? Jan Stussey's artwork is there too. He died in 1990. Stussey never even visited Mendocino, but his artwork is sure there. The average price for Jan's artwork there is $1,850. The average auction price is $420, 5 times less. Isn't that overcharging? His wife's work is there too. That's Maxine Stussey. She died in 2020, and she was never in Mendocino either. Maxine's artwork is there in a very big way. The average price for Maxine's work there is $42,500 for an average auction price of $2,500. Isn't that overcharging? This would be called a rip-off anywhere else. At the Mendocino Art Center, it's called Monday. There's another way to bury an art center: by insulting your neighbors. Bill Zocca came to Mendocino in 1957. 5 years later, he insulted everybody in Mendocino in a national magazine. That was in 1962. Bill Zocca said that Mendocino was a ghost town when he arrived, and that people here had no self-respect. None of that was true. I was living here when that magazine came out. People here were pissed. Mendocino's locals have long memories. They never got over it. The Mendocino Art Center struggled after that. When Bill Zaka died, his daughter reprinted that magazine article on a public website. That was in 2018. While Bill Zaka's daughter served on the board of directors of the Mendocino Art Center. 7 years later, the Mendocino Art Center was in trouble over a lack of local support. Bill Zaka's daughter continued with her position on the Mendocino Art Center's board. There was no apology for what her father had done, and the website was never taken down. It's still there today in 2025. There's another way to bury an art center: by antagonizing local media. That happened in 2016 with a TV crew at a Mendocino Art Center board meeting. The TV crew was gaslighted, called psychotic, and out of their minds. Chris Shook is a blacksmith. He'd been teaching workshops there and reported a hazard with propane. There was a propane leak on Mendocino Art Center property. When Chris reported it, he was fired. When it was mentioned at the board meeting, some board members got angry. Some thought the TV coverage was a setup, so they made accusations against the TV crew. Those accusations were all made within earshot of the TV crew, so the TV crew reported it and published the story on the internet. That story can still be seen along with the video of the board meeting where it happened. It's titled MAC Board Meeting, Something Rotten in Mendo? If that's not enough, there's another way to bury an art center: by endorsing theft. The Mendocino Art Center is a nonprofit. It's a public charity. Self-dealing is frowned upon and wrong. The Mendocino Art Center has bylaws, updated in 2003. Self-dealing is written into those bylaws on page 7. The Mendocino Art Center posted those bylaws on its website. They appeared there in July of 2010 for a while, then they were taken down. Those bylaws are visible today at the Internet Archive, where they can't be taken down by anyone. There's yet another way to bury an art center: by hiding your governing board from the public. The Mendocino Art Center files annual reports under penalty of perjury. They're officially called Form 990s, open to public inspection. When each report is filed, current board members are listed at the time of filing. The Mendocino Art Center's last report was filed in November of 2024. Deborah Lennox was president then, and Bill Zaka's daughter was on the board. Mendocino Art Center's website said otherwise, that Deborah Lennox wasn't on the board, and neither was Bill Zaka's daughter. That website was captured on the Internet Archive, just like the bylaws that endorse theft at the Mendocino Art Center. Deborah Lennox is nowhere to be found. She's not on the Mendocino Art Center's website. Neither is her email address or phone number. The Anderson Ranch Art Center doesn't work like that. Their president is listed on their website, along with his email address and phone number. There's another way to bury an art center: by inflating its balance sheet with assets that appear to be liquid but aren't. The Mendocino Art Center did that back in 2020 with an art collection worth $700,000 in inventories for sale or use. Those inventories were an art collection by artists who were cherished by the Mendocino Art Center. Maxine Stussy was one of those artists. Her husband Jan was another, along with Bill Zaka. The artists whose work had been inflated at artworkarchive.com. The Mendocino Art Center had no savings account by the end of 2023. The Anderson Ranch Art Center had one at nearly $800,000. There's one surefire way to bury an art center. That's with leadership and pay. Check out the Mendocino Art Center's expenses on their latest filing. They paid nothing for leadership. Zero. Now look at the Anderson Ranch Art Center and their expenses on their latest filing. They paid more than $500,000 for that. It's been 4 years since the Mendocino Art Center paid anything for leadership. The last time was in 2021, when they paid less than $70,000 for it. That's only 10% of what Anderson Ranch paid for leadership that year. There's an old expression, when you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. What happens if you pay nothing besides getting buried? At the beginning of my little video, I said you should be pissed. Here's why. It's a proclamation from our elected officials honoring the Mendocino Art Center as it was being buried alive. And that's how to bury an art center. Thanks for watching.